Hello there. Welcome to the 2x e-commerce podcast. I am joined by Yong-Soo Chung, who is the founder and CEO of Urban EDC and GrowthJet. Urban EDC, or Urban Everyday Carry, is a community-driven e-commerce platform that curates and sells artisan crafted everyday carry gear like notebooks, pens, knives, wallets, and bottle openers. They operate on the premise of exclusivity and urgency through their limited edition weekly product drops from top makers that get their community members constantly excited. Young's second company, GrowthJet, is a climate neutral certified third party logistics or 3PL company based out just of the south of San Francisco. So why should you listen to this episode? Well, Yong-Soo breaks down the building blocks he's used and is still using to build a strong and remarkable brand. A strong brand that will help you stand out in a crowded market, build trust with your customers, and increase customer loyalty. Yong-Soo also speaks a lot on how to leverage customer data to get valuable insights into your customers' behavior, preferences, and needs. In his words, by analyzing customer data, you can identify areas where your business can improve and make data-driven decisions to optimize your operations. Yong-Soo also covers how he has experimented with different marketing channels for Urban EDC and his other portfolio brands. They have heavily utilized and leveraged social media, email marketing, influencer marketing, and paid advertising. Fourth, we talk about automation, tech, and the importance of staying curious and continuously learning as an e-commerce entrepreneur. So if you want to delve into the detail of how Yong-Soo has grown and is profitably managing his 10 million plus e-commerce empire, well, you've got to pay attention, and let's just get started. Hey, Yong-Soo, welcome to the 2x e-commerce podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Kunle. I really appreciate it.
No, it's been a long time coming. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Where do we start? Let's start out with who you are. Let's start out with where did you grow up? What was your childhood like, and how has it been instrumental to where you are now? I'd really like to make that connection.
Absolutely. So actually, I was born in South Korea. And so came here when I was about 8 years old and actually learned English as a second language. But now it's funny, it's flipped where my English is a lot better than my Korean now. And so I guess you could say I'm like a 1.5 generation Korean American immigrant. And growing up, I actually went to a very, preppy white high school, private high school, and I was the percentage of Asians in that community was very small, and the people that I was surrounded with, some of these classmates, their parents were, C-level execs at some of the biggest companies that you would recognize, and I didn't know that at the time because I was just a little, I was a kid. But growing up in that environment, I don't know, I just felt like there was just kind of this inner drive for me to kind of, I don't know, just make my own path and just kind of make it in this world. I don't know, it really drove me to be like, okay, I want to make a name for myself. I always knew I wanted to start a company one day. I just didn't know what company I would start, but I just had this big dream of, doing something very impactful in this world, in my life. And I'm not sure where that comes from. But I mean, part of it has to be, this whole immigrant thing with growing up in a society where I'm kind of a foreigner. And so I did have that inner drive from the start. And so I graduated from high school, went to a liberal arts college up in Maine, and then graduated in 2009 which is right in the middle of the Great Recession, if you
Mm-hmm.
recall. And so I was actually in finance at the time, and so graduated, went into finance. Actually, was fortunate enough to find a job on Wall Street in 2009, and I was doing finance for a couple years. And during that time, I had this urge to start a side hustle. So I actually tried a few different things. I was writing for a personal finance blog, and I got paid $25 for every blog post that I wrote. And it took me a couple hours to write each blog post. So pretty sure that was like below minimum wage at the time. Um,
Way below.
but then I got a taste of what that was, right? And that was more important to me as like, wow, like I can actually make money doing something on my own rather than waiting for that paycheck every 2 weeks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that realization really made me motivated to continue. And I actually wanted to start like an iPhone app development company around that time. And this is, back in 2009. So iPhone app economy was just starting to take off. And I created a simple, or I guess I worked with a company in Ukraine, a development company, and the idea for the app was essentially a geofencing app where if you go to a location like a church or a library, it'll detect that you're in a location where you're supposed to silence your phone, and it'll silence it for you. And so that was the idea for it. But then I quickly realized that silencing your phone is really difficult because the iPhone has this physical button that you're supposed to click up or down to silence your phone, and so that didn't work out. And so we pivoted into like a group chat app. And back then there were no group chat, and Facebook groups didn't even exist at the time, right? So I wanted to make something where um, you could talk to your family, you can talk to your camping friends, like all these like different subsets of your life that you have different personas, right? And so
Yeah.
that was kind of an idea that I had, which obviously now there's tons of group messaging apps. But then right around the time, I got laid off from that first company that I was working at, and so I decided to shut down all these projects. I'm like, okay, this is a bad time. We're in the middle of the Great Recession, and so those side hustles kind of stopped there. And then I realized that if I wanted to be involved in tech, I needed to surround myself in the environment of startups. And so I bought a one-way ticket to Berkeley, which is in the Bay Area in San Francisco. And
Mm-hmm.
I moved there with just one suitcase. And I only knew two friends, one high school friend and one college friend. And from then on, I was sleeping, I was crashing with a high school friend of mine for 3 months on the floor on an air mattress. And I don't know if you've ever slept on air mattresses for a long period of time, but like your back starts to really
It
hurt
hurts.
after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was there and I was looking for an apartment and a job at the same time. And finally, I landed a job at a startup, and I was doing the business development for them. And so I was on cloud nine because I was flying to Austin, Texas to attend South by Southwest. I met, you know, Coolio, the rapper. He stayed with us at the house that we were at. I met Mark Cuban. I mean, it was like crazy. And I was like, wow, this is like my new life now. Like, it's insane. And so I was doing that for a couple years. And then the company was largely funded by venture capitalists. And the funding actually went dry. And so they actually had to make some cuts. And I was part of that cut. So here I was again. I was laid off, and I didn't really know what to do. But I remember why I moved to San Francisco in the first place, which is to start my own company one day. But I didn't know engineering, and I felt like that was a core skill that I needed to know. And so I actually did a 12-week intensive software engineering boot camp where literally Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. till 9 p.m., I was just coding all day. and it was a really intense 12, 13 weeks. And
You're a
so
finance major.
I'm a finance major, yeah, or econ major, but yeah,
Wow.
finance specific.
Ecom. Okay.
And so I did the software engineering program, and then the first interview I went to after this program, it was like, it was so bad that they actually told me to leave in the middle of the interview because I had 4 interviews lined up. After the first 2 interviews, they said it's not worth our time. Like, please, like, leave our office. And so I was like so devastated. I was like, all right, this is going to be terrible. But then 2 days later, I interviewed at a company that is in the blockchain space, and that company, it was almost like a match made in heaven because they were looking for someone to build out a trading platform. And I already had that background from my days in New York. And so they accepted me. And so I became an early employee at this company. This is back in 2014. So March 2014 is when I joined this company. And so
What's the name of the company?
It's called Ripple.
Ripple. Oh, no, Ripple, yeah.
And then so I was there for about a year and a half. And I realized, though, that there's a lot of financial regulation stuff that was happening there. And literally our team at one point was told to stop building our product because they needed regulatory clarity before we moved on. And so I remember one Friday, we actually all went to go see a Pixar movie together because we had nothing to do. And it was kind of a crazy moment because we had so much momentum going for us, but we were being told to stop. This cold stop, right? And it was just so weird to me. And I'm one of those guys where I need to keep moving. I need to continue to see progress. And I just couldn't stand just like going to work and not really doing anything. And so I decided to leave. This is towards the end of 2015. So I left then and started my company called Urban EDC. And so EDC stands for everyday carry, and it's things that you carry on a daily basis, like your wallet, a pen, a flashlight, a bottle opener, maybe. And so that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, so EDC. So first of all, there's so much to unpick. From there, my takeaway is you take risk. Having taken that one-way ticket to Berkeley, to University of Berkeley, then being a finance major and saying, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go for a 12-week intensive course in software development to essentially change career. That to me is just resilience, from then on. So I guess my question is like your why with Urban EDC, everyday carry. Everyday carry, is it everyday carry for a man? Was it like a manly brand? Was it from your personal experience? Did you launch it as a necessity of I just want to make money, or was there a bigger purpose and reason for setting up Urban EDC?
Yeah, good question, Kunle. So I honestly didn't really know what I was getting myself into at the start, and a lot of my colleagues thought I was crazy, right? Because I'm in Silicon Valley working at a hot blockchain startup, and I leave to start selling knives online, and that didn't really make sense to a lot of people. And for me, it was actually more about just having the autonomy and the freedom to be able to kind of work on whatever I wanted to work on. And I was looking at things from the perspective of like, okay, so we've got 2 forces. We got time and we got money. And so from a time perspective, I was looking at like, how was I spending my time on a regular basis? And then on the money aspect, I was looking at like my credit card statements and seeing what I was spending my money on. And it turns out that I was really, I was buying a lot of these things like titanium pens or these desktop, like tops, like spinning tops. and just things that were well machined and just everything fit into this category of everyday carry. And at that point, I kind of had a sense that this is the area that I wanted to get into, but I still didn't really have, like a why that was just beyond myself. But as I was building this out, and as I grew my team, I've realized that my why and my purpose is actually beyond myself now, and it's to empower the employees at my company to become leaders themselves. And I think that actually shifted a lot for me, because now I was no longer doing this for myself, but I was doing it for others. And to be honest, that shift in my mentality unlocked a lot of doors for me.
Going back to the everyday carry category, how big is it? What it seems general. It's not like homeware or garden or and who are the major players in this everyday carry? It seems to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to break that down for me as a novice?
Sure. So I'd say the knife industry as a whole has existed for a long time. And I know that in the UK, it's, quite prohibitive to have knives and carry knives. But here in the US, it's a very common thing, especially down in the South. And to be honest, like a lot of people carry knives not to, I know it sounds kind of silly, but they don't carry the knife to really use it that often. They carry it more as like an accessory. It's almost like almost like I don't know, like a
A
purse, but
lighter?
instead of, yeah, like a lighter, yeah, whatever it is, like it's like, why are you carrying that specific lighter, right? It's got to be, it's some kind of personality attached to it, right? Like, oh, I'm carrying this
Right.
because it was passed down from my grandfather or whatever. There's some personal meaning behind it. And so a lot of people, they carry a knife because, it has that special meaning behind it. And they carry that specific knife for that specific occasion, because of these deeper meanings. And so a lot of these guys are collectors. And so they really appreciate the design aspects of how the knife was made. And so it's not much about like, oh, just get any old knife and just, open boxes with it. Like it's definitely deeper than that. It's more about like, oh, like why did the designer choose to, design the knife in this way? And so you can really geek out about knives. And to be honest, Kunle, I wasn't a knife collector when I started Urban EDC, but I've soon gone down that rabbit hole, and it's a really interesting and intriguing world out there with knives. And I know that it's I guess if you're not into knives, it's kind of weird, but um, I mean, there's a whole community that's super passionate about it, and it's really about bringing that community together and showing off, like, oh, check out this knife that I've had for, I don't know, like 20 years, 30 years, and just showing it to people. And there's a story behind that, and I think that is where like
Mm.
the power is the meaning and the story behind each of these items.
Mm. And everyday carry transcends knives, right? The many other. I know knife
Mm-hmm.
is the leading product in this category, but there are many other things. There's bottle openers,
Yep.
flashlights,
Yep.
fidget toys, chain keys, right? Okay, but
Yes.
it's really the craftsmanship involved. It's like wearing a really good wristwatch, or just being very particular about what you carry or done on yourself. Now, you guys have a very unique business model at Urban EDC. You utilize drops, product drops, weekly product drops. Now,
Mm-hmm.
from in my head, what I'm thinking is this has draws parallels with a publishing business. Whether it's a daily publishing business or a weekly publishing business, there's an audience, there's an anticipation on the audience. You launch the product to market, or you launch whatever it is to market, and then there's a reaction, you get feedback, and then you iterate. But you have to turn up every week with something new. How do you manage with that? What does the team look like on the back end? How far do you plan? It's like a podcast, actually. It's like a podcast. So I do this podcast every Tuesday, and I think on a good month I kind of know my next 4 or 5 episodes. So how do you plan this out? Yeah. Do you want to break down the model on the back end, so e-commerce operators listening to this can sort of get a grasp of how where you're coming from?
Absolutely. So I guess I should give you some background on kind of like the types of products that we bring into the shop. So we work with all sorts of different makers and designers all around the world, and we have the ability to work with them on small quantities because the culture of the everyday carry community is actually one where, some guy in his garage is making 10 pens, for example, and he sells them on Instagram and they sell out in seconds. And so that's the culture of this everyday carry community. And so we wanted to bring that experience to our customers on a weekly basis. And we haven't deviated away from the Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific time gear drop for years. And there's a purpose behind that. And that's because we're training our customers to know that, hey, if you come here at this time each week, we have really cool stuff that you're probably going to want to check out. And what's happened here is actually, it's so funny because we have customers literally like setting alarm clocks for 12 o'clock on Wednesdays so they don't miss out on our drops. And it's like a conditioning where we've actually had people telling us like, hey, I actually run a law firm, and I told all 5 of my employees to jump on the website at 12 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday to try to score this flashlight that's really hard to buy. And the funny thing is, none of them were able to buy it at that time. And the guy got really upset at me, being like, "Yo, how is this possible? Like, I got all my team trying to get this product, and none of them were able to buy it." And so we've kind of created this, like, I don't know, this hype and anticipation of these drops. And you're right, it does take a lot of coordination and a lot of scheduling, but I genuinely believe that getting that hype level up each week has been one of the best, I guess, marketing decisions that we've made, because it really, like, people get really jazzed up and they know it's going to be there at 12 one Wednesdays. And it's like, yeah, it's a really interesting thing that we've created there with these weekly drops. And so, yeah, we have a calendar. We work with a lot of makers. The moment we make a purchase, we use Notion. We put it into that database. We schedule the drop. So, for example, if we buy something today, purchase inventory today, then we'll put it out maybe like, I don't know, 6 weeks out. And so it's scheduled. And of course, sometimes we have to adjust the schedule because there'll be delays and stuff. But at least it's there, and we know that we've purchased it and it's there in the database. And then we'll start planning a little bit of like sneak peeks and hyping it up about a week before. And so we'll let people know, hey, by the way, this is coming this week. You don't want to miss out. And so we have content scheduled before the drops, and then we have content scheduled literally like the moment it goes up. And then throughout that, the rest of the week, we will publish content around the products that are still available. A lot of it will sell out instantly. And so those things we don't want to push, because then people will just get really upset at us. But we will essentially keep pushing content out that is surrounding this gear drop event that occurs each week.
Yeah. A lot of work, but worth it, because there's the novelty. There's that anticipation, and they just want that novelty on a regular basis. And given the fact that they are of a certain psychographic, they think a certain way, they appreciate certain types of artisan works, and design. They want to turn up to buy something unique, and they know it's not going to be there next week. So they're there. They keep turning up and up again. So just looping back to our conversation before we hit record, it looks like there are two key pillars in your business. One is the collaborative side, which is the back end where you're collaborating with artisans, with producers essentially, and then the other is community, which is what you have. That's your core asset, and you're essentially bringing and merging them on a weekly basis, on a regular basis, together. Now, looking at starting out with the collaborators, in terms of like the artisans, are you getting inbound now that you're so big? Do you still hunt for manufacturers, or is just you just made a name? It's kind of like with the podcast. We still do hunting with a podcast because we don't want to be like every other show. Because if we wait for podcast agencies to present guests to us, then we'll sound like every other podcast. So I actively go to LinkedIn. I myself go to LinkedIn, and whenever I see someone really interested in this space, I would just outreach them and say, "Hey, would you like to come on the podcast?" So what is the process with yourselves?
Absolutely. So this is a great point. So when we first started back in 2015 and 2016, we were pitching, brands all the time, and we were hearing no after no after no, and it was a really, really frustrating experience. And I almost gave up. It was a really rough time. And looking back on it now, I just feel like when you first start, that is really the toughest point, because no one knows who you are. No one cares about you. And why should they work with you? Because you don't have anything that you can offer them. You don't have an audience, you don't have a big social media following or whatever. And so in the beginning, we heard more no's than yeses for sure. But the yeses that you have, those are the leverage points you got to start building and compounding. And so, each week we just tried and just built it up slowly. And then at a certain point, it just kind of like, people started coming to us. And like you said, Kunle, the people coming to us are not necessarily the ones that you want to work with. You want to be the ones that proactively reach out and expand your audience reach. And so now, people are reaching out to us all the time, and some of them are great. And so of course we work with them. But a lot of times our work is still not done. We're still reaching for the brands and the collaborators that are just outside of our reach, because that's how we know we're going to continue to grow, right? So we actually started working with a lot of big content creators now, and so we actually have one deal specifically that I can't share it because it's not we haven't publicly announced it yet, but that YouTube channel has like tens of millions of subscribers, and we had to really work with them like for months before we convinced them to do this project with us. But then they got on board and they're really excited about it, and we're really close to launching this project now. And so in a way, yeah, you get people coming in, and you're very thankful, because in the early days everybody said no. But now, even though we've kind of built our reputation and people are coming to us, you still don't want to take all those people coming to you, because you still want to be expanding your own network and your own circles and your reach. And so I guess the approach hasn't changed that much. It's I guess more about the magnitude of the people that you were reaching out to.
Yeah. And as you grow, you know what you want. Your tastes change, and that actually gives you more of a recognition, more of a back end, because you have success behind you. So when you approach the desirable partners, they see the credibility. Credibility is actually the word I was trying to. So as you grow, you're building your credibility, and that credibility actually gives you more opportunities, for you to reach out to those brands that you really, and creators that you really want to collaborate with.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the community building side, you're not allowed to advertise knives. Knives is your leading. Artisan knives are your leading, products at in urban EDC. How have you built? How big is the community? And how have you built community?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the primary way customers love to be communicated with? What's the primary medium you communicate best with customers on?
Great question. So our community, so we have about 169,000 followers on Instagram, and our email list is close to 100,000 subscribers. And so I would say the email is our primary method, and it's very, very important, because the way I see it is like Instagram and all these other platforms are discovery platforms. And so those platforms, you're essentially borrowing audience from, Instagram or YouTube. You don't really own them. Yeah, they might follow you, but then one small tweak of the algorithm and like no one will see your posts, right? So it's a delicate balance of getting followers on these discovery platforms and then having an enticing offer or some kind of motive to get on the website where you can kind of get their email address, and then from then on you own that relationship with that potential customer. And so I would say that a newsletter is critical for building a sustainable brand, and that's been our driver. Like each Wednesday, like we talked about earlier, like the newsletter goes out and like we see a huge spike, and each week I can see our open rates are increasing, or our opens are increasing because our email list is increasing, and that's correlated really nicely with our revenue. And so I would say definitely like email is a core part of what we do. We also do SMS, and so we do have a text campaign that goes out, and those are kind of we call it the underground. And so these are deals that we don't advertise anywhere, and so these could be very attractive offers, but a lot of the brands don't want their products to be discounted on the website. So what we can do is we can actually go through SMS, and that way customers feel like they're getting a really cool deal. No one really knows about it, and we can move inventory that's not moving as quickly. So yeah, email, SMS, and then the discovery platforms we're on right now, Instagram. We are quickly growing on TikTok as well. We're doing YouTube Shorts. We're also on Twitter. And we were on Pinterest earlier, but we've kind of gone away from that a bit recently. But yeah, those are kind of the primary channels that we acquire our customers. And then going back to the community aspect, and so this is really important. We want to make sure that each person that comes into our network becomes an advocate of the brand. And so how do you make someone love your brand? They have to have a fantastic customer experience. And then that customer experience has to be kind of like a network effect. And so, we have a free Facebook group that people are invited to when they purchase. And so we send follow-up emails and say, hey, how do you like your product? Oh, by the way, we have this community on Facebook if you want to join. And we're able to leverage our community, and so they feel like they're part of something. And then actually most recently we launched a paid membership called Yamato Club. And this is an interesting experiment that we're doing that is working out really well for us. And so people are paying $9 a month to join this community. It's a Discord server. And essentially these are like our top customers that we have. And, we have a very lively conversations in there. And then we're actually curating kind of like these mini drops for them. And so it's almost like a paywalled shop that only they can access. And so I really feel like doubling down on a community and this kind of exclusive access to the community is going to be a bigger trend for e-commerce, because I feel like there's a lot of brands now, and brand affinity and building a strong brand is really going to differentiate one brand from another. And so definitely double down on the community and build an experience for them that they can't refuse.
And what about like moderation? You talk about customer experience. With an e-commerce business, there's so many layers to customer experience. Whether it's the returns process, whether it's the on-site UX, and the post-purchase experience. There's so much. Now, how do you manage also extending that level of care with managing a community? Because things can get really wild in a community, particularly Discord.
Yes, good call. So it's important. So once you have a strong community, you'll get to see people kind of step up and almost take on like volunteer roles. And so these are your kind of like your key ambassadors for the brand, and you can definitely like leverage these people, and they of course you take good care of them, so you can give them whatever discount codes or free gear from time to time, but they're not necessarily like part of your team. They're part of the community, and I think that is what's more powerful, is that these self-governing communities with moderators that are from your community, they're not even part of your team. And so when someone, let's say, is unhappy with like, I don't know, like there's a problem with shipping, right? And they're like writing on Discord being like, oh, I can't believe they did this, whatever. Then the moderator, who's not part of our team, is stepping in and say, hey, by the way, they're really good with customer support. Like, just reach out to them. And so we've actually had times when our customers, like somebody would post something negative about us, and then our other customers actually come in, and like it's like a swarm of like people. They're like, this, like you're not getting the point here. Like, you need to reach out to them. Like they are so good. Like know, and so they actually like stand up for us. And I think that's like the most powerful thing, is like when you have customers who advocate for that experience, then you can't really, you can kind of scale that way.
Yeah, Raven fans. There's a use case. There was a brand I was working with, and they were into the automotive space. And when you run Facebook ads for them, and I know you're not allowed to run Facebook ads with the knives, but when you run Facebook ads for them, what happened is their customers, we wouldn't put exclusions on the Facebook ads for a reason. The reason why I wouldn't do that is because their customers will just jump into the comments and share their projects on there. So that was like social proof right there. So you'd have like one ad with 20, 30 comments on there with their finished projects. So for somebody who's like Dalton Jones, he's looking at it and is like, shit, these guys are for real. They're legit. These are not bots. These are real projects, because they're so diverse. Mm-hmm. And that just used to essentially turbocharge the performance of the ads, because it was like a self-perpetuating, situation there. And it was just amazing. So you get that privilege in these groups where everybody is like in the same mind that we care about, the brand Urban EDC, and that's it. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's flesh out the way your business works. We have the collaborators, which essentially is your supply chain. It's your back end. Do you have a supply chain manager on there? Or do you still sort of paying that special attention to detail? Do you still handpick, or do you have someone to do it for you?
Yeah, so we have someone that's been with us for a very long time. He actually started off in customer support, and worked himself up to now he's the brand manager of Urban EDC. And so he's the one that works with the suppliers, and of course he checks with me, like these are large purchases, so he makes sure like, hey, are we good on finances, all that stuff. But those decisions, I really try hard to delegate decision making. And I found that when I do that, not only am I able to delegate and get more off of my plate to work on other things, but it also
Mm-hmm.
empowers the employees. And so they're like, wow, I'm like making this crazy big decision. I feel really good about it, you know? And so it's a win-win when you delegate decision making. And, you know, a lot of people are really afraid of that. But to be honest, like you got to go out at some point and tell, you know, teach them how to fish, for example. You can't always fish
Yeah.
for them, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, I've actually like kind of like, sometimes I would let them make the mistake as long as it's not like extremely costly because I know that
Yeah.
learning is going to be so valuable that it's almost worth me paying a little bit for that mistake versus me being like, actually, you have to do it this way because of this. Because then they're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll just do it that way. But then there's no like reasoning
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah. The other thing I found is like transparency on like your North Star metrics and their metrics. So I was speaking to a PPC team today, and they're like, "No, we don't want to run a campaign that would go on a brand on like a competitor's brand name search because it's going to ruin our numbers." And well, it's going to ruin our numbers. And I was like, screw it. If that increases revenue, month on month revenue, it's a win. We're not judging you by those metrics alone. You need to look at it, the bigger picture. Sometimes they're so screwed on like their metrics, their dashboard, without actually seeing the whole. And
Exactly.
it's you spoke to empowerment, and that is empowerment. That access to higher level data, so everybody walks towards it, right?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Super interesting. So you have, so in the community side, what does your team look like in the community building side? Because there are lots of moving parts. You have to acquire like emails, you have to acquire customers off the
Mm-hmm.
back of it, you have to
Mm-hmm.
collaborate with other brands and creators.
Mm-hmm.
You can't advertise. That handicap is a superpower for yourselves. So what does the team look like, and how do you sort of manage and orchestrate that front bit, which is super important to Urban EDC?
Yeah. So our team is about 5 people. And so we have
Mm-hmm.
the general manager who handles a lot of the operational day to day stuff. I check in with the general manager about an hour a day, roughly, and I let him kind of handle most of the day to day stuff. We have a partnerships manager who is kind of, I guess, our like hunter in a way. He goes out and reaches out to these big creators, reaches out to these big brands. We've actually started reaching out to some Hollywood studios now too. And so he's kind of he's really good at what he does, and so he's partnerships manager. And then we have a guy that is our customer experience guy. So he handles all of our tickets, customer inquiries, and all that. But then he also handles our community side. And he's not the one actually actively in there like moderating. He's just making sure that there are no fires or anything weird going on in these communities. And then we have like our ambassadors or people that really love us, and they're the ones kind of doing the little more like inside each individual community, like making sure that people are not they're behaving and they're not talking about inappropriate stuff and things like that. And then we also work with a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and so this has
Mm-hmm.
actually been really really good for us because all of our back office operations we do that offshore, and that's saved us a lot of money. And what's
Mm-hmm.
great is the Philippines, um, they'll do all that like when you sleep, right? So when you wake up, like all
Yeah.
that stuff is already done for you, and so that's kind of the basic structure. Oh, and then we have a we have a product photographer as well, so he creates product photos and also videos for us as well, and so that kind of rounds out the team. Yeah.
Yeah, and since you have weekly drops, I guess copy is so important. You mentioned the photographer. You definitely have to have photos of what you're dropping. who crafts the copy
Mm.
to make it compelling both on site and across, all your comms channels, whether it's SMS, email, or social?
Yeah, actually, I forgot to mention that one. So we do have a copywriter that we work with. He's from Singapore, and so he does
Hmm.
all the copywriting for our product pages. And then the emails themselves are actually written by our team internally, and so we don't outsource that because I just feel like it's such a core part of what we do. And like I said
Hmm.
earlier, like newsletter is so important to us that we do that
Hmm.
internally, and social media posts, same thing. We do that internally as well. So um, all the product stuff is outsourced in terms of copywriting, but all the other
Hmm.
communications are all internal because it's our voice, it's our brand. So I want to make
Right.
sure that it's representative accurately.
Okay. So you have two or three other businesses, if I'm not mistaken. You
Mm-hmm.
have GrowthJet,
Mm-hmm.
which is the first climate neutral certified third party logistics provider in the world. We need to talk about that.
Okay.
Then you also have a pet brand. If I'm not mistaken, it is called Spotted by Humphrey,
That's right.
which has got to do with your dog. It's a pet brand, and then you're building a personal brand now. If I'm not mistaken, also, just looking at my notes here,
That's right.
it is it's First Class Founders. You started that in November,
Mm-hmm.
and from my notes, these businesses combined are an over $10 million a year business, which is like a 9-figure business. How do you manage all these cogs? Let's speak first to GrowthJet. You started GrowthJet in May 2019. How's that going? Why did you jump into the third 3PL space? You leveraging your existing facilities for Urban EDC for this. Do you want to speak to
Yes,
that piece?
absolutely. So we realized, when we were doing our fulfillment for Urban EDC, I did a lot of research and discovered the third party logistics company that had the best reviews. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go with these guys. They're clearly the best. And so we went with them, and we had a lot of issues with their fulfillment. I mean, we had like $5,000 worth of goods lost. We've had literally products taken out of the box before it was shipped to our customer. So the way we found out about that is our customer would email us and say, hey, is this a joke? I just received a box and it has nothing in it. And so that kind of experience really shook us. And I was like, that is terrible customer experience. And, just feel like we could do a much better job at it. And so we decided to bring fulfillment in house. And when we did that, we actually had a lot of people asking us, like, hey, who's doing your fulfillment? Because my fulfillment is kind of our pain point of our business. And so we decided to take on privately a few clients to help them with their fulfillment. And so we actually didn't even have a name or a website when we began GrowthJet. We were just helping out other brands. And then, finally we're like, all right, let's make this into a real thing. And so we got a website, got a name, and we realized that fulfillment business is really, really, good, bad for the environment. There's so much like waste and trash. And so we wanted to do something about that. And so one of our core values for GrowthJet, we made as like being a climate friendly 3PL. And I think that really resonated a lot with a lot brands, especially now with climate change just kind of going crazy. And so the brands that we work with are very, very careful about working with partners that have these brand values that align with their brand values, right? And so that's kind of how GrowthJet was born. And we just moved into a 39,000 square foot warehouse. And so that's been a really, really exciting journey for us. And right now we are working with a lot of exciting growing brands, and it's one of the areas of the business that's growing very quickly for us.
Interesting. So how do you get climate neutral?
Yeah.
If that's the yeah, how do you get climate neutral certified?
Yep. So there's an organization, and it's climateneutral.org, and
Mm,
they work with other brands, and they're actually a relatively new initiative, but they've already gotten a lot of large brands like REI. They've gotten a lot of these big brands to commit to being climate neutral certified, and so the way we do that is we look at all the expenses and the costs of the business, and then they categorize that into certain different categories, and then you essentially have to
mm,
buy back the carbon credits for that waste. And so each
mm,
year we go through, look at our expenses and categorize them, and then buy the credits to offset the carbon footprint for the business.
mm, 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 mm. What have been your major what have been the major levers? Okay, you have clients in GrowthJet, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any growth stories with like whereby maybe you're fulfilling 50 orders a day for a merchant for an e-commerce operator, and then that 50 has grown to 500 and has been sustained? Have you seen any growth stories internally with your clients at GrowthJet?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've seen new brands that launch, and I guess these situations are a little bit unusual because they launch with a celebrity as a co-founder, and so they're
Right.
able to obviously have a lot of brand awareness right from the get-go. And so these brands will actually
Mm-hmm.
launch and then grow slowly, and then all of a sudden, it'll explode in volume, in order volume. And so yeah, we've definitely seen that, working with a lot of these brands.
Are they only celebrity led, or do they tap into other opportunities or efficiencies to really grow quite rapidly?
Well, to be honest, I think if you're the brands that we see kind of from the get go that launch with a bang like that, you have to have a lot of connections and kind of a network that you can launch like right away. Like, here we are, this is a new brand, and that's distribution of like brand awareness. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you don't work with a celebrity, then definitely you'd probably have to work with some like an agency, like a PR agency, to get your word
Mm-hmm.
out and essentially kind of do like an announcement. You can also work with influencers, and so if you have a product that you're launching and you've built these relationships with these influencers, you can definitely like give them the products and tell them, hey, on this day, this is what we're announcing. Like, if you're up for this, like we'll send you whatever products that you need, and maybe monetary value as well. But this is what we're doing at this time. Like, please announce it, and so that kind of has this like like a press release effect where everyone finds out about it at the same time, and so that's really the only way that I've seen that a brand kind of launch with that kind of bang.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And then, where is GrowthJet located?
Yeah, GrowthJet is in Brisbane, California, which is about 20 minutes south
Okay.
of San Francisco.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh wow. It's okay. 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 So it's not quite Monterey. It's somewhere between San Fran and Monterey.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty
Okay.
close. I mean, it's pretty close. It's to be honest, it's a very expensive area, and
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to. Well, it's if we were optimizing for real estate, we would probably not be in that area. But
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of worked out for us. We found a great space, and we're really excited. We're going to be there be there for 4.5 more years. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
You've also got good people there, I
yes.
guess. Yeah. Okay, and then the really cute story here, the your dog, Humphrey,
Hmm.
spotted by Humphrey. Do you
Hmm.
want to speak a bit
Sure.
to that, please?
Yeah. So my wife and I, so we do business together, and we brought home a French bulldog in 2017, and we did not expect this to happen, but he gained a large following very quickly on Instagram. And it's funny, actually, one of the first videos that went viral is me holding him, but I'm like cut off from my neck down. So it's just like my torso. And like, so my
Mhm.
torso is being viewed like millions of times by strangers on the internet. Um, but yeah, that video kind of took a life on its own, and that catapulted his following. And so a year later, my wife, she quit her job to pursue Spotted by Humphrey full time. And so Spotted by Humphrey is an online dog boutique curating all sorts of dog products, and she has pretty good taste, so she's not just bringing in random stuff. Like, she's very picky about all the leashes and harnesses, and the treats,
Mhm.
making sure that they're healthy and all natural, all that stuff. And so she kind of launched this brand, leveraging his audience. And so she kind of, she's also a content creator through Humphrey, I guess. And so
Mhm.
part of that revenue is, brand deals, but also the revenue from the e-commerce shop as well, Spotted by Humphrey.
Yeah, incredible, incredible, incredible. I really respect what you guys have built to date. Your journey. I mean, finance in the recession. Taking that lip to San Fran. Berkeley, Ripple, the early days of e-commerce. It's just incredible. It's incredible, Yong-Soo. It's I really respect and the fact that there's this resilience. You're a creator. Okay, so let's speak to your final project or your most
Hmm.
recent project, which is First Class Founders, a weekly podcast dissecting the most impactful concepts and frameworks from the business world. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm going to check it out. Right off the back. Actually, let me check it out now. Do you want to sort of speak to why you started First Class Founders and what you guys are up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, First Class Founders is a place where I could share lessons that I've learned building my business. And
Hmm.
I've made a lot of mistakes myself, and if I could help one entrepreneur out there avoid the same mistakes that I made, I mean, that would make me so happy. And so, um, yeah, it's a weekly podcast, and I try to keep the podcast episodes very short because I know everyone is busy, especially operators. And so they're about 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, and I break down kind of a framework that I used, or I have kind of discovered that is very useful for my business. And so a lot of the things that I'm talking about in that podcast, like a framework, I actually apply it to my own business, and I talk about um, you know, how and why I use that framework in that situation. And so um, I feel like it's a really unique way to kind of get a sneak peek behind the scenes, um, into how I'm running my business, kind of like which growth levers I'm pulling, experimenting and seeing what works, what doesn't work, why it failed, why it succeeded. And so that's kind of the area that is kind of my, I guess, playground for experimenting and just sharing everything that I'm learning as I'm doing this. So yeah, firstclassfounders.com is where you can find the podcast.
Yeah, I'm on it now. We're going to link to it in the show notes, and I just give you a follow on Twitter. So yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing.
Awesome.
Right. Before I let you go, every episode we have what's called a lightning round, where I ask you about 5 or 6 questions, and if you could use a single sentence to answer each of them, we'll be okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. Let us begin. Are you a morning person?
Yes, I am.
So what does your morning routine look like?
I get up, I walk my dog, and then I make myself some green tea, do a bit of meditation, and then get some work done that doesn't involve email. So it's like, it's deep work.
Are you into sports?
Yes, I'm a big sports fan. I follow Boston sports, so I'm originally from the Boston area. So.
Okay, I was going to ask what is your favorite sports team?
Right now, it has to be the Celtics. It's a basketball.
Yeah.
But I grew up playing baseball, so I'm a big Red Sox fan as well.
Okay. All right. What two things can't you live without?
I would have to say, I guess my wife and my two French bulldogs.
Fantastic. Family. What book are you currently reading or listening to?
Book, yeah. So I am reading a book called. It's a book by Robin Sharma. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's these little short stories, and I think it's called something Manifesto. I'll have to look that up, but I don't know why I'm blanking right now. But I will make sure that I have the title for you shortly.
We'll figure it. We'll find it for you. No worries. What's been your best mistake to date? I mean, a setback that's given you the biggest feedback.
I think it's been, constant iterations and kind of listening to customers. And so a big mistake that I made earlier in my career is actually I bought a bunch of inventory and it like nobody bought them. And it was a big mistake that I made. And I had to get really creative about how to get through that inventory. And so I would say to anyone, like, just test first, validate it, and then build. So that would be my advice.
Yong-Soo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the 2X e-commerce story. I really, really enjoyed your backstory and where you are now. Wish you tons of success and cheers. Thank you.
Kunle, thank you. And one more thing, the book is called The Everyday Hero Manifesto by Robin Sharma, by the way.
The Everyday Hero Manifesto.
Yeah.
We'll link to it in the show notes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Yong-Soo.
Thank you, Kunle. Appreciate it.